if you can elaborate a little bit on how you are taking in students or empowering other folks from different countries in the region or elsewhere. And how do you go about doing that remotely would be a fantastic story.
So I think one of the keys to catalyzing this industry is making sure that leadership are educated. There's a lot of confusion, and you can only learn so much through YouTube. So we've been privileged enough to have trained government officials in South Africa. We've also trained government officials in Lesotho and Malawi. So we're getting calls from Rwanda and Uganda and Kenya and Ghana, where people are realizing that there needs to be proper education, because you can't implement and update and create an industry if you don't understand what the industry is. So I think that we've started at the top. As Linda mentioned earlier, we actually have our first Turkish student who started with us a few weeks ago. We've had students come down from Germany, from the States. I think people also understand that if they come here, they can get very hands-on. We don't have that everywhere else. We certainly are working with the Southern African region to try and capacitate and catalyze. We believe that South Africa already has a very deep legacy for cannabis cultivation. Interpol have said that we're one of the 4th largest producers in the world. We've been shipping out, tons and tons of illegal cannabis into specifically Europe for decades. So we have cultivation skills. We have that reputation. We have a lot of good genetics here. Most of the people have heard of Durban poison, very famous genetic, great medical benefits. And so we are in a situation where, as a country, we can confidently put ourselves out there as people with experience. But we're also going through the trials and tribulations as any territory does, with legislation, legalization, and trying to bring all those things into the mix. It has been painfully slow. There has been movement in the last 12 months, thankfully. But I think the opportunity for this industry to catalyze, our economy, which is in trouble, and to really help people on the ground from a job creation perspective is absolutely enormous. But we do need an enabling industry. So we are fighting hard to try and get government to bring that online. And slowly and steadily, we are winning, because we ultimately want to take our place globally as a proper cultivator and one of the bread baskets of cannabis into the world.
So that's great effort, guys, and these are like two trailblazers trying to empower growth and through education and through cannabis as a plant. I know not all countries are legal within the Southern African region. Do we still face such challenges on the medicinal export front, or do you see that opening up to the world very shortly across the region? I know South Africa is one of the easier ones out there, but there is other countries like Namibia or Zambia which are not as open as they could have been.
There's a lot of volatility in the export market at the moment, as I guess developing countries are finding their feet in terms of their legislation. We are shipping out of South Africa, sizable amounts. It could be more. The challenge at the moment is we're also cultivating under GMP standards, which are expensive. It's the same thing as the sort of dictation that comes down saying that you can't cultivate medical cannabis outdoors. We don't believe that is true at all. Cultivating cannabis outdoors is one of the best places to cultivate. Yes, you open up your risk factors. Yes, your consistency might be not as consistent, but ultimately your cost is completely a huge amount lower than cultivating indoors or even in hybrid situations. And if we can get testing and extraction right, I think there's a huge opportunity to sort of shift the marketplace. But at the moment, we are being dictated to some degree by the international marketplace. And as the local market develops and increases, I think we will be in a position where we can be a lot more stronger in terms of our offering as we sort of refine that and streamline that, and then it'll become about price at the end of the day.
Yeah, and also I guess one of the other challenges, besides the practical ones, is also the stigma that's still attached to it. So other countries are still within Africa are still very much negative in terms of the perspective on cannabis and its attributes that it can have for the country. So I guess that's really another challenge. Also mindsets. Like how do you go about changing someone's perception on something that they've believed to be a certain thing for so many years, and now you're changing it and changing the narrative around that? But if you have facts and you have, actual, practical examples that you can showcase, then more and more people and more countries will start coming on. And we believe that this will start, happening because there's a younger population that's coming up now that's taking control, of certain aspects of their countries. And we believe that new energy, that new blood is going to just basically change and pioneer new things.
Absolutely, this is a great point, Linda, on the young blood taking over, and with awareness, as we see the stigma that disappears, and different economies come on board on the economic story that you are building within South Africa. I also feel that everybody in the region looks at South Africa for any developments and technology, and they try to mimic South Africa on the way it conducts business. So thanks for sharing the challenges. Any other challenges or perhaps opportunities that you wish to tell us about across the region, be it domestic or be it from as an educator?
I guess it's a developing economy challenge where people have a much shorter view of the world in terms of timing, because life is more about immediacy, surviving immediately as opposed to thinking of 10 years down the line. So we can be a little bit cutthroat with each other, and don't look at the bigger picture. So I think that's a challenge that we're trying to really foster in the industry. We have a beautiful saying, the rising tide lifts all boats. So we're really trying to foster the spirit of collaboration and working together more for the greater good of the industry, which will ultimately benefit more people. So that's a challenge that we have, which is not unique to South Africa, but something that we're trying to work on. I think the opportunities here are incredible. Cannabis tourism, there was an article in National Geographic a few months ago which highlighted the fact that if we played our cards right, we could be one of the biggest with the cannabis tourism markets in the world, which is very exciting. And then just developing a local market where we have access to cannabis. The cannabis club market is really starting to blossom here, and cannabis clubs are all different and individual. And so I think what's important for us as Africans is to grab the culture of cannabis and to package that and also export the African story. So that really excites us, I think.
Yeah, no, and I think also just to jump on that is that a lot of the opportunity in terms of Africa with the arable land that we have, the sunshine. I mean, that's in itself a massive potential. I mean, we do have other countries coming in and starting to overtake. I won't mention who they are, but it's also something that is an allure and as something that's appealing. And it's just about us getting organized and speaking and networking so that we can sort of, capitalize on this opportunity, especially around the hemp space. I mean, we believe, once the hemp industry starts coming online, it's going to really be making such massive changes in, to our environment, to our health, and also to employment, because I mean you need so many people to actually manage an actual farm, and then also the actual products that you can also make out of that. I mean the biofuel sector, the carbon credit sector, there's all these other industries that can also be developed just from this plant. And I think with our African counterparts, if the more of them come to the table, it will make us a formidable force, within the international landscape. It's just really about communicating and then sharing the knowledge that we have.
That's a great point, guys, and especially the one around collective growth. And I see that across industries, that cannabis industry still is a very friendly, relationship-based industry. I very well agree with that point on collaborating with stakeholders across the value chain and try to create ecosystems that we can help each other with during good or bad times.